Dan sent us some nice little session designs right here, and I want to start being able to show people how he's able to keep it game realistic, but yet incorporate all the goalkeepers and make sure that they're all being engaged. And Dan, I think one thing that before we get into this, I think a lot of people have the misnomer that engagement means physical. Engagement just means that they're thinking about the game. They're involved in the game. They're within the game.
Let me give you some context for this. So you'll notice that I have two goalkeepers. This is because our other goalkeeper was out at the time. We had been off for 4 days. And thus I was really conscious of not wanting to have them hit the ground like bonkers. This is basically a re-entry day, although it was at the end of the week. So there are a few things to note here, is that there's the goal at the bottom of the screen, the line in front of it is 6 yards. So I basically have a 6-yard box, 2 6-yard boxes. But we was playing that as if it was the 18-yard box. And then also note that over my right shoulder, there's something hanging from the crossbar. I'd never done this before, but I thought we'd make it work. There's also a yellow pole in front of the small goal. I think that small goals are great to replicate people, but they often are way too big of a target for a pass. So the yellow pole was the target and the small goal was there to mop up the balls that run errant. So you'll see over the next couple of clips that the ball ends up coming to me, and we use that 6-yard box as basically the top of the box. So it'd be like defending the space, and I either play it and they have to clear it, but we didn't want to shag balls like nobody's business, or the ball ends up just under the 18-yard box, so they come out to smother it. What was hanging from the crossbar was it's like a yellow red, it's like a bone basically. And what was really interesting is that it kept their minds activated because they had to hit that, and it was only from 7 yards away. But that hitting that bone gave them feedback. And it was feedback that their strike was where they'd aimed, which is exactly what we wanted, because far too many goalkeepers at the top of the box just launch it. We are launching it, but we're launching it with a target. So there's an in-possession focus here. There's an out-of-possession focus. And then you'll see in this next one, as this unfolds, is that I bowl it a little far into the box. And I would say there are a few things that are really, really tough to replicate as a coach. One of them is defending the 3 yards at the top of the box. And actually, the ball that I give to Didi in a second is defending the 3 yards at the top of the box. Can she come to smother, or is she going to launch it out for a throw-in, which would keep pressure on our team?
Yeah, I absolutely love what you were just talking about right there. I mean, I should be taking notes right now. I'm going to have to go back and watch this because, Saskia, I would say that in my maturation as a coach, I've started recognizing, and a lot of this happened during the pandemic, and shout out to all the wonderful coaches who I've been able to have discussions with on and off the air, but about the in possession to out of possession. And when you're talking about activation and engagement, we've got to make sure that it's both, because that's the game.
Yeah, you'd only have to come to one Angel City game and be there for about 10 minutes to see how important it is that we use our goalkeeper. And in the recruitment process of putting this group together, that was a massive part of what kept people in the conversation and eradicated people from the conversation. And thus, every part of our session, there is an in-possession focus. So this next clip that you're about to show, Didi's about to strike the ball, but there are a couple of requirements. There's either an 8 pass, a 10 pass, or a 6 pass. So she's just played it low as if she was driving it through to the 6. But notice that as she plays the ball, Britt tracks that ball to where Maya's catching it, right? She's in the main goal, but she tracks it the entire way. She's engaged. She knows that she's not going to get the ball off that initial one, but that movement laterally and then back inside is what we're looking for.
God, that's awesome. I mean, I'm like, it's very hard. Look, I mean, it's very rarely am I speechless, but I'm just thinking is like, oh my God, this is just next level. Saskia, is there anything you want to add to this? Because my brain is just exploded right now.
No, I agree. Cool. It's amazing how you can, we get so focused on one situation when we're training, and how you have 2 situations here. All right. Who's making the save? Who's tracking? The fact she's in the big goal tracking that slotted ball, everything like that. It's the engagement. The mind is constantly engaged. It's amazing. No, it's
well. Here's what happens. Here's what happens from time to time is that initial ball. Maya might palm it off into what would be Brit's 6-yard box then, and Brit has an obligation then to dominate that space. But she can't dominate the space if she's just playing the strike or the 1v1 that she's going to get from me. So you notice that every single ball she plays, she's tracking it laterally as if it was pulled back to the end line, and she would assume a position close-ish to the post. However, Brit hasn't played a game yet, and thus we don't get to do game film on her. So my ability to coach those situations from game film is nullified, and thus I need to build those situations into practice so we can get those habits in or out, celebrate them or eradicate them, so that when the time does come, she's good to go.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I love what you just said there in regards to, and I think a lot of times we forget about that, is that, you know, when we are working with goalkeepers who have been in different experiences throughout the season, and we start trying to train them the same. And Saskia, I've been a culprit of this in the past too, especially at the collegiate level. And I started recognizing, oh my gosh, well, how can I expect someone who hasn't been in this scenario in a game environment like this lately to be as sharp or on the same page as somebody who has been going through those reps consistently?
Yeah, but I think that what Dan's doing, and that, you know, what I believe in and everything, is making everything as game-like as you can. Game-like scenarios, game-like everything, so that regardless of whether you're a second or third goalkeeper has played, they're used to the scenarios.
Yeah.
You know, and you trust in them for that. So, I mean, I love this. There's so many different situations here. There's so many different things that can happen. Yeah, you're sending this to me, by the way.
Michael, will you go back? Will you go back?
For sure.
Yeah, there's so many different situations. It's not what we have with a lot of coaches out there and stuff is like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is where the ball's going to go. This is how you're training. Right. But that's not game like. Right. So there's so many. How are you working on your positioning? How are you working on your service back? How are you working on if this gets deflected off a mannequin? What are you doing? Like, there's so many different situations, but that's the game of soccer.
Yeah.
That's what happens in front of you within the 18, period.
Yeah.
So
there are a few things that to be a goalkeeper at Angel City, you have to be able to do. And one of them is to play into, right? You must be able to play into an 8 if they fall into a pocket of space. You must be able to play over somebody into a right back or left back. And in that very clip there, you've just seen two other things that are really, really important. So watch when Maya strikes the ball at Brit, you could see this as service for Brit, but I don't see this as service for Brit. I see this as Maya taking a one-step goal kick and clipping the ball into an 8 who's 40 yards up the field, right? That's the way I see it. Brit just happens to be 8 yards from her. And then the next thing, and I celebrated this with Kaylin a bunch last year because I think she does it the better than anybody in the world, is can you start the attack with a bowl at pace without having a 10-yard run-up? So if you watch any game of soccer, more often than not, when the goalkeeper collects the ball, they travel to the top of the box to start the attack. And actually, we want to start the attack when the opportunity presents itself. And right now, because I've popped off the mannequin, I've presented myself. So now we've got to challenge Brit's arm strength and detail to deliver the ball to me. Because if she doesn't, then Dee Dee doesn't get an action. So everything is connected. If one person could do something brilliantly, everyone gets an action. And if they don't, then they don't. And thus there's this pressure on them for them to deliver. Because the toughest thing for me at Angel City to recreate is pressure. Because the pressure on training is very different to the pressure on game day. But if I can make one person's final action contingent upon the first person succeeding, then actually they create this pressure in their minds to deliver.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love the fact that you're bringing up the fact that in regards to how one action leads to another action leads to another action, because I think a lot of times, no, Saskia, go ahead if you were about to say something.
Yeah, and that's the next level. Let's be honest. That's the next level of goalkeeping. The next level of goalkeeping is that you understand that your action, where are you going to go with that? Right? It's not, I've got the ball, pause. It's, you've already scanned, you've already done this. So am I going to be 2 steps into a throw, 3 steps into a side volley, trigger somebody, hit the 9, hit the this, hit the that, hit the other. And the minute that you aren't thinking a step ahead is you're too late at this level.